Bro.
Yeah, nothing.
All protocol duly observed. We are indeed grateful to have you here today for yet another celebrate legal year, which is the 2020 legal year. As you can see in the program, process of which we just concluded now. The speaker, which unfortunately will not be with us today due to the demands of our mayor, so rest in perfect. Our Excellency will proceed. Then we have the Excellency, the President Adama Barrow. As I stated, the Honorable Chief Justice and the Minister of Justice. Then he will shake hands with both the bench and the bar before he take his seat. Then we will proceed to the program in details. Thank you so much. Music. of the Gambia, Madam Aïssatou. Welcome, ma. She is received by the Chief Justice and the Attorney General, Minister of Justice. Then she will proceed to the podium for the national salute. As the President of the Republic, now witnessing the arrival of the Chief of Defense Staff, Lieutenant Kitte. We expecting the arrival of His Excellency the President, Mr. Adamamba, and he will be received by His Lordship, the Honorable Chief Justice Hassan B. Jallo, and Attorney General Minister of Justice Abu Bakar Tim. Of course, starting with the Superior Court, Supreme Court, Honorable Justice G.B.S. Jane, shakes hands. Honorable Raymond Sok, Supreme Court. Honorable Yaya Nati from Nigeria, who is here for the session. Honorable Brown, Sierra Leone, here for the session. Honorable Jallo, who doubles as this Chairman CRC. Honorable Justice Mami Agency, Supreme Court. The President of the Court of Appeal, Justice Haoba. Justice Idrissa F. Mbai, Honorable Justice Kumar Njai, Honorable Justice Nasise, Court of Appeal, Honorable Justice Hadi Ross, Court of Appeal, Honorable Basiru Mahoni, Court of Appeal, Honorable Justice Kumbasila Kamara, Court of Appeal, High Court, now Justice Koduma, Honorable Justice Amina Saho Sise, High Court, Honorable Justice Jawara Alami, High Court, Honorable Justice Nawu Sise, Honorable Justice from Federal Republic of Nigeria, Justice Musali on Technical Assistant, Justice Abubakar from Nigeria, the newly appointed Judge Justice Kulbukjane, who just resumed duties long ago. Justice S.F. Jal, Good, the Chairman of Kali Appeal, 1 second. Kadija, Ulama, Elimanja, Sheriff Minister Tabali, the Sheriff of the Gambia, Principal Magistrate Umar Jam, Brigama, Honorable Principal Magistrate Introductory Brigama, Kanibi, City Joba, the Senior Magistrate, Mr. Abdul Conde, Chief Registrar, Supreme Court, Magistrate, I was with Magistrate Beret, Bendy, Sar, Kanibi, I was with Magistrate Benfal, Susibi, Tribunal, I was with Aisan Ojai, Brigama Magistrate Court, Magistrate 32, Kadi, the Principal Kadi, Mollamin Sise, Bundung of Bundung, Kadi, Principal Kadi, Jame, Brigama, Emel Fadi, Kerewan, Mustafa Sane, Banyun, Babakar Sar, Bansang, Kante, Base, Kadi, Kadi Sise, Kadi Sar, Kadi Kanaj, Kadi Kanaji, Kadi Basiruli, Kadi Mahfusanya, Bundu, Kadi Jeng, Kadi Fi, Kadi Yunuska Base, Kadi Ablai Seka, Bansang, Kadi Sise, Base, Kadi Ba, Bansang, Kadi Yaju, Mansakong, the youngest Kadi, Kadi Suane, the youngest Kadi, Brigam, Kadi Sane, Bansang, Kadi Jadem, and Kadi Sise, finally Kadi Jadama. We now move to the public bar and the private. Of course, the Honorable Attorney General, Minister of Justice, will do the introduction. Your Excellency, we are meeting the young and vibrant generation of lawyers. We start from the young and the vibrant generation of young lawyers. We have these are the homegrown lawyers. Now we are a senior, that end, the senior members now. The president is taking out with the senior members of the bar of the Gambia. Senator Cham, Henry Ju, Dr. Henry Carroll, Lamin L.K. Poch,
Bro, sini.
Salif Khan. Present is the protocol of the judiciary. Aminata, Ramatullahi, Abi, Mati, Khadija, Ba, Bai, Mohamed, Abdu, and Bai, and Mr. Haruna Jene, the Principal Assistant Secretary, Office of the Chief Justice. The honorable judges of the Superior Court, the honorable ministers, the advisors of the President and Chief of Staff, the other service team. Let's give a moment for the learned friends to have their seat. Just to quickly go down, run through the programs. We are now at the start of the program proper. And of course, it will start with the prayers as usual. Then statements will be followed by the President of the Bar Association, the Attorney General and Minister of Justice. Then address will be done by His Lordship, the Honorable Chief Justice Hassan B. Jallow. Then the opening address by His Excellency, the President Adama Barrow. From there, after the President's speech, there will be a group photo, like President and the judges of the Superior Courts, to be followed by a photograph with the magistrates and then with the caddies. Then the President will proceed to shake hands with the members of the judicial staff and Attorney General. Then from there, we'll proceed to the office of His Lordship, the Chief Justice, for a short ceremony. And of course, in that ceremony, is due to the space conscious, it's only the ministers and the judges and some senior members of the bar that will be allowed inside His Lordship's chambers. Having said that, it is now my pleasure to call on, as the tradition demands, of this beautiful country, prayers will take us wherever we want to go. So let us not forget about prayers. On that note, I'll now call on the representative of the Christian, the Imam. I'll call the Imam Ratib of Banjul to lead out the Muslim prayers. Yeah, Imam.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. ربنا تقبل منا إنك السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك التواب الرحيم. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. اللهم اجعل بلادنا غامبيا بلدا آمنا مطمئنا يأتيها رزقا رغدا من كل مكان ونجنا من كل بلاء وقلا وطاعون وسنا ووباء تعين من جميع ذلك بلادنا خاصة بلاد المسلمين عامة بحرمة اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق والقاتم لما سبق الناصر الحق بالحق والهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره ومقداره عظيم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. بحرمة لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. آمين. توفيق إلى القابل بدأ الإنسان جام رك سيريومي كأنه جام أم جام كده خلنا نكسي ولا يوم. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Thank you, Imam. I will now call on Dr. Henrik Carroll to lead us in Christian prayers. Doctor.
Let us continue in prayer. Let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. Justice must not only be done, it must manifestly and undoubtedly be seen to be done. Fiat justitia ruat coelum. Let justice be done, though the heavens fall. Great God of nations, we thank you for making us competent and compellable witnesses to witness this epoch-making moment in our legal history of the Republic of the Gambia, which marks the official opening of the legal year 2020 by His Excellency, our beloved President, President Adama Barrow. We pray that according to the Magna Carta, that great historical instrument, that all those who come to this edifice who deserve justice will not go away empty-handed. We pray that all those who administer justice will do so with a God-fearing spirit, without fear or favor, affection or ill will. May justice be available to all and sundry across the board. May it not be a privilege for the rich and the privilege for the uppermost class of society. May it go across the board. That is why we have legal aid, which for now, unfortunately, is only restricted to capital offenses. That is offenses which attract death penalty or life imprisonment. But hopefully, in the not too distant future, we shall widen the parameters of legal aid, so all and sundry will have access to justice. Because justice, access to justice, is an inalienable and fundamental human right. As our national anthem clearly says, let justice guide our actions towards the common good. This is a civic duty, not only those in the legal fraternity, judges, magistrates, lawyers, JPs, but for all and sundry. We are all agents of justice. Lord, grant us the resilience and the fortitude to always do justice, knowing that in the not too distant future, if we do any unjust act to our fellow human beings, it will catch up with us. As William Shakespeare rightly said in Julius Caesar, and I quote, that we but teach bloody instructions, which being taught return to plague the inventor. This even-handed justice commends the ingredients of our poisoned chalice unto our own lips. We pray that we treat each other with justice, fair play, and goodwill for the common good of the Republic of the Gambia. Great God, hear our prayer. We ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Doctor, for that prayers and that short lectures. Your Excellency, the President, Mr. Adama Barrow, Your Excellency, the Vice President, Madam Aïssatou Touré, His Lordship, the Honorable Chief Justice Hassan B. Jallow, Honorable Judges of the Superior Court of the Gambia, Honorable Attorney General, Minister of Justice, Your Worships, the Magistrates and Cadis present here, Honorable Ministers, Secretary General and Head of Civil Service, Secretary to Cabinet, Honorable Members of the National Assembly, Your Excellencies, Members of the Diplomatic and Consular Corps, the President of the Gambia Bar Association and members, distinguished members of the Bar Association, the Director General Gambia Law School, Permanent Secretaries and Head of Institutes, Governor Chiefs, members of the District Tribunal, venerable religious leaders, members of the staff of Judiciary and Attorney General, the press, and all protocol duly and respectfully observed. It is indeed a pleasure to receive you here today on the grounds of the Superior Courts of the Gambia for another celebration of legal year. This time, 2020 legal year is the one we're celebrating at the moment. Speeches will be done by various stakeholders in the justice deliberation, including the Chief Justice, the Attorney General, the President of the Bar Association, and the address will be done by His Excellency the President. Legal year is a stock-taking for the legal fraternity. You will hear different development challenges and achievements that we've 2018 we have passed through so that we can prepare for 2019. On that note, we can prepare for 2020. I will now start by calling the President of the Gambia Bar Association, Mr. Salud Tal, to make statement. Mr. President, this time the Bar Association. You are welcome.
Thank you very much, JS. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of the Gambia, Mr. Adama Barrow, Your Excellency, Madam Vice President, my Lord, Honorable Chief Justice, Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Cabinet members here present, Your Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic and Consular Corps, judges of the Superior Courts, Your Worships, Magistrates and Cadis, members of the National Assembly, service chiefs, venerable religious leaders, my learned friends, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols respectfully observed. My Lord Chief Justice, I promise to be short and to the point. It is with great pleasure that I give the opening statement on behalf of the Gambia Bar Association on this August occasion marking the official opening of the 2020 legal year. On behalf of the entire Bar, I extend our gratitude to the Chief Justice for according me this privilege. Exactly 3 years ago, I was privileged to witness the swearing in of President Adama Barrow at the Gambia High Commission in Dakar by my learned brother and friend, Sheriff Mari Tambido, during the 2017 political impasse. Today, 3 years later, we are honored to have His Excellency before us for the second time to officially open the legal year 2020. Your Excellency, we are grateful for your attendance and extend our warm welcome to you and your cabinet members. The first pillar of our development blueprint, as stated in our National Development Plan, is the restoration of good governance, respect for human rights, rule of law, and empowering citizens through decentralization and local governance. The judiciary, the bar, and the Minister of Justice are the key players with the responsibility of ensuring the foundation and pillar of our development trajectory is on a firm ground. The interdependence and symbiotic relations of these three actors is critical as we forge ahead in rebuilding our national institutions and consolidating our democratic gains. As a bar, we are cognizant of the important role of lawyers in the promotion of good governance, respect for the rule of law, defense of the Constitution, and protection of rights in general. In this regard, we are pleased to note and recognize the contribution of our members to the Janneh Commission, to the Truth, Reconciliation, and Reparation Commission, the Constitutional Review Commission, Human Rights Commission, and most recently in the drafting of the Freedom of Information Bill as part of a civil society coalition on freedom of information. It is fair to say that the bar has stepped up to the challenge in nation building and is playing its part in helping to rebuild the governance structure of our dear country. With humility, I dare say that we still have a long way to go. However, I am particularly encouraged by the growing interest of young and upcoming lawyers in the practice of constitutional law, civil liberties, and promotion of human rights. Under the current democratic dispensation, we anticipate an increase in the demand for the service of lawyers as litigants gain more confidence in the justice delivery system. As lawyers, our operating environment is more conducive and less inhibitive, unlike the past. Legal practice is no longer a risky and life-threatening vocation. This is a great opportunity for lawyers to develop our jurisprudence progressively and advance the cause of justice. While this presents opportunities for lawyers, we must be mindful of our noble obligation to discharge our duties with diligence, professionalism, without fear or favor, and with the utmost regard for the ethics of the profession. The bar is an independent, non-partisan, professional association. However, our independence must not be misconstrued as a position of neutrality in the face of the infringement of rights or violations of the Constitution. It is our duty and responsibility to take positions, legal positions, on matters of law concerning the defense of the Constitution and protecting the rule of law. While we are making inroads as a profession, we continue to face numerous challenges. There is a need to ensure our skills and knowledge are continuously updated through mandatory continuous legal education to meet the demands of an ever-changing legal environment. I'm happy to note that there are plans to introduce continuous legal education by the General Legal Council in collaboration with the law school and the bar to meet this need. Every year, our law school graduates many lawyers, most of whom struggle to secure a pupillage, which is a mandatory requirement for enrollment as a legal practitioner. This, we must look at constructively as stakeholders to find a sustainable way forward. I urge our members, particularly those those practicing as sole practitioners, to look into expanding their practices to accommodate the upcoming lawyers. A pupillage gives an insight into legal practice while allowing the trainee to develop professional expertise. I must therefore emphasize the need to endeavor to make pupillage accessible to all ordinary aspiring legal practitioners. As our numbers grow, we are witnessing an increasing number of complaints against lawyers, and this is a cause for concern because it undermines confidence in the bar and the legal system as a whole. This is a matter that both the bar and the General Legal Council takes very seriously, and will ensure that lawyers who fall short of ethical professional standards are dealt with appropriately. On a positive note, the bar is playing its role in bringing access to justice closer to the people, especially for the underserved communities. Through our mobile legal aid clinics and establishment of a prison desk in the Joshua prison, we are offering fortnightly pro bono legal service to inmates. This is in partnership with the Legal Aid Agency with the support of the UNDP. The bulk of our work as lawyers is in the courts, arguing our case before judges or magistrates. The judge, as an arbiter of law between competing claims, has a huge responsibility and must be well versed in law and procedure, experienced and impartial in discharging this noble duty. The outcome of a judge's decision has wide ramification in the lives, liberty, and property of litigants before them and to society at large. For this reason, the bar for becoming a judge must be set very high. We acknowledge and applaud the steps taken by our Honorable Chief Justice to Gambianize the judiciary, which is the norm and expectation of any sovereign country. However, in doing so, it is imperative and critical to maintain the quality and high standards of the bench. In my humble opinion and with respect, perhaps it might be prudent to phase out the process of Gambianization to ensure that there is a pool of qualified Gambian nationals with requisite experience fit to be appointed or elevated to the bench. As a bar, we have a role to play in this, and we will endeavor to encourage competent, experienced Gambian legal practitioners to consider taking up positions on the bench. It is in our collective interest to ensure that the quality and standards of the bench are maintained at all costs. As legal practitioners and stakeholders in the legal sector who routinely interact with the bench, we humbly believe that the bar should have a more prominent say and role in the appointment of judges. Under the current constitution, we are entitled to recommend one representative to the Attorney General for nomination to serve on the Judicial Service Commission, known as the JSC. Unfortunately, for close to 3 years, our recommended candidate is yet to be nominated as a member of the JSC. I have been assured by my brother, the Honorable AG, that our membership at the JSC will be finalized expeditiously. As a bar, we sincerely hope that the number of legal practitioners on the JSC will be increased in the next constitution. Despite all the challenges of the judiciary, we recognize the efforts made by the CJ to improve the condition of service of the judges and the judicial staff, amongst other things. The introduction of legal assistant is a positive development geared towards improving the work of judges, and is already paying dividends. We also understand that their conditions of pay have been improved. Notwithstanding these interventions, we still have some way to go as a judiciary. Our judiciary is still under-resourced. Our judges in this day and age are still recording proceedings by longhand, which is very tedious and laborious. It is indeed critical for the judiciary to consider digitizing or automating court processes and proceedings. This is the norm in many countries in the sub-region, where court processes are electronically transcribed and processes can be filed electronically, known as e-filing. While the judiciary is increasing the number of judges to meet the increasing caseload, we do not have enough courtrooms to accommodate our judges comfortably. There is a dire need to upgrade the court infrastructure in the Greater Banjul area and build more courts in the regions to broaden access to justice to the majority of Gambians. From this program, I've observed that the foundation stone for Bundung Court Complex will be laid on Wednesday. This is indeed timely. I hope this will be extended to Carnington Court and, more importantly, in the regions. There are significant reforms in the legal sector, mainly funded by donors with counterpart contribution from the government. Yet, the judiciary, which is at the heart of the administration of justice, still remains underfunded. Your Excellency, I urge your government and our donor partners to allocate more resources to this sector as a matter of priority and urgency. Spending on the judiciary is not an expense. It is an investment in our democracy. And an investment in our democracy guarantees peace and stability. I conclude. Time, like all resources, is scarce. I would therefore conclude my statement by once again thank you all for your patience. For the Gambia, our homeland.
Thank you, Mr. Tal, the President of the Gambia Bar Association. Your Excellency, the President, and all existing protocol observed, it is now my pleasure to call on the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Mr. Abubakar Temeru, to make a statement.
Thank you, JS. Your Excellency, Mr. Adam Barrow, President of the Republic of the Gambia. Your Excellency, Dr. Aissatou Touré, Vice President of the Republic of the Gambia. Your Excellency, Alhaji Ousainou Darboe, former Vice President of the Republic of the Gambia. My Lord, the Chief Justice, my Lord and Lady Justices of the Superior Courts and the Judiciary, my Cabinet colleagues here present, members of the National Assembly, the President of the Gambia Bar Association, and my colleagues at the Bar, regional governors, the Lady Mayoress of Banjul, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is a privilege once again to address this esteemed gathering on the occasion of the opening of yet another legal year. Mr. President, distinguished guests, only last week when I was browsing through some Gambian online news websites, I saw a headline that captured my attention. It read, and I quote, "Courts are now very fair. Go to the courts," unquote. A certain prominent Gambian businessman was apparently being quoted by the news report. Well, no one can deny that there has been a marked improvement in the judicial and legal sectors in the new Gambia. The quote from the businessman is only illustrative of the increasing public confidence in the administration of justice system in our country in only 3 short years since the political change that gripped us in December 2016. Of course, there is still room for improvement, and the government will be the first to acknowledge that. But the fact remains that great progress has been made. Greater freedoms, especially in the area of freedom of expression and peaceful assembly, are now a common feature of our democracy. There is no longer detention without trial, and there has been significant reduction in reported cases of brutality or torture, if any, by law enforcement agencies. Institutions like the Gambia Police Force have now established a human rights unit to receive complaints and provide response to reports of abuse and police brutality. Effective civilian oversight mechanisms such as the National Assembly Select Committees or the National Human Rights Commission are now fully operational. Our democracy is indeed taking a positive shape, and we should all be proud that only 3 years on from having one of the most repressive political environments in the world, our country is fast becoming a globally recognized, free, open, and democratic society. The establishment of the National Human Rights Commission and its numerous activities since then underscores the significant advances that this government has made in its governance reform agenda. Mr. President, distinguished guests, unfortunately, our country still has too many challenges, and we cannot, in just 3 short years, resolve all those challenges to the satisfaction of everyone. So our transition from dictatorship to democracy will continue to be fraught with challenges, especially in governance, but we are determined to succeed. We are on course to set a solid foundation for a modern democratic society, anchored upon respect for the rule of law and human rights, and we will do everything possible as a responsible government to consolidate these newfound freedoms and democratic gains which too many have fought and died for. Mr. President, distinguished guests, the past year has been an eventful one, especially with respect to our transitional justice processes. The Janneh Commission submitted its comprehensive report on the financial corruption of former President Jammeh and his close associates, and the government issued its white paper in reaction to the report. The government has since started implementing the recommendations of the Commission for the recovery of stolen and misappropriated monies. The sale of assets and of former President Jammeh's properties is currently ongoing in phases and has already generated hundreds of millions of dollars, and more is expected in the coming months. We will intensify our recovery efforts in the course of this year by using all legal means at our disposal, including civil and especially criminal proceedings against uncooperative culprits. Regarding the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission, it has been a challenging 1 year of public hearings with a number of shocking revelations and difficult decisions. I sympathize and understand the frustrations of some victims and their families over the perceived lack of accountability for perpetrators. Frustrations often expressed in the saying that justice delayed is justice denied. But I agree with senior lawyer SBS Janneh that sometimes justice has to be delayed so that it will not be denied. As leaders, we cannot simply follow public opinion all the time. we have a responsibility to occasionally lead public opinion, especially when it comes to matters of justice and the rule of law. I have said previously that removing former President Jammeh from power, impossible as it seemed at times, may prove to be an easier task compared to the challenges that lie ahead of us as a nation. But we made a choice. We chose liberty over tyranny, democracy over dictatorship, and reconciliation over revenge. The road to sustainable peace and democracy in our country will be a long and bumpy ride, but we will not fail. With every falter and every stumble, for there shall be many along the way to that promised land of freedom and justice which we all dreamt about in December 2016. We shall lift ourselves up again and again, more determined than ever before, to see that dream come true. Too many have died for this dream, and they too shall not have died in vain. And we continue to draw inspiration from the words of President Theodore Roosevelt, that, and I quote, "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who actually does strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of great achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat," unquote. So let me make this clear once again. The TRRC is only a fact-finding investigative process. But unlike other truth commissions elsewhere around the world, ours is the first of its kind with a mandate to identify for prosecution those who bear the greatest responsibility for the human rights violations and abuses. After a year of public hearings, and as we enter into the second and possibly final year of hearings, it can no longer be ruled out that crimes against humanity have been committed in the Gambia between July 1994 and January 2017 under former President Yahya Jammeh, and that those who will be identified by the TRRC will face certain prosecution in the most serious form. There will be accountability of the highest order for these crimes, and I assure the victims that it is now only a question of when and not if. Make no mistake about it. Barring any findings or recommendations of the TRRC to the contrary, if former President Yahya Jammeh ever comes back to this country, he will face immediate arrest and charges of the most serious kind. He will be subjected to an accountability process like any ordinary accused person in this country, and no amount of irresponsible talk or political brinkmanship will prevent this from happening. Meanwhile, the government continues to demonstrate its commitment to the welfare of the victims by making an initial payment of $50 million to the TRRC Victims Trust Fund, part of which was used to provide overseas medical treatment for some victims. Nevertheless, great care must be taken not to undermine or be seen to undermine all the efforts invested in our transitional justice process. We have all worked too hard to throw it all away at the altar of political expediency. history will not judge us kindly if we engage in acts that undermine public confidence in these processes and ignore the pains and sufferings of the victims and their families. And let those who mock at or use threatening or abusive language against the victims be warned. Do not test the limits of our democratic tolerance or confuse our respect for the rule of law with weakness. We will not, under any circumstances, accept the intimidation or harassment of victims and witnesses by anyone. The change in December 2016 is as much about sensitivity to the plight of Jammeh's victims as it is about our collective destiny as a people. On the constitutional review process, we are pleased that the Constitutional Review Commission has now published its draft constitution for public reaction. It is indeed impressive that the CRC was able to produce this detailed draft in this short period of time. The publication of the draft has also achieved its intended purpose of generating public debate on the proposed governance architecture for our new Gambia. But unfortunately, and in spite of the many progressive provisions contained in the draft constitution, there has been too much focus on one or two issues that have threatened to overshadow all the good work of the CRC, and the tone of the exchanges has at times been regrettably unsavory. There is no doubt that the concerns of minorities must be taken into consideration as we seek to rebuild a new Gambia through assurances that make them feel protected by the state. How best to achieve that protection and assurance is the subject of intense debate these days. While the expression of divergent views is an intrinsic part of democracy and helps to bring to the fore issues that had simmered beneath the facade of peaceful coexistence in our country, so that we can address them openly and candidly as part of rebuilding the new Gambia, we must not allow these exchanges to divide us. Christians and Muslims have lived in this country in peace and harmony for generations, and it is the responsibility of each and every one of us to ensure that this fraternal spirit is jealously guarded. Now that former President Jammeh has gone, so must all his irresponsible actions that had divided us along sectarian lines. We must not allow his legacies to continue to threaten our cherished peace and tranquility. This country belongs to all of us, Christians and Muslims, and so it shall remain. Our democracy must not be allowed to become a tyranny of the majority. Mr. President, distinguished guests, one of the biggest challenges to our democratic reform process lies in our security sector reform. There is continuing mistrust between ordinary citizens and our men and women in uniform, in spite of the best efforts of individual law enforcement agencies to change their approach to law enforcement in the country. It is clear that there is an urgent need for a coordinated, efficient, and quick security reform process, and we urge the general public to exercise more patience and understanding, as this is a complex process that requires great care. But we must also recognize that a complete institutional transformation of our law enforcement agencies will require a longer and more focused effort, but we are determined to see this reform through. As chair of the steering committee of the security sector reform, I have extended an invitation to the United Nations to assist with coordinating all the different complementary efforts of our bilateral and multilateral friends and allies in this reform process, and we hope to see more progress in the course of this year. Mr. President, distinguished guests, in terms of legislative reforms, we have in the course of last year tabled for enactment before the National Assembly a number of transformative legislation, including an Access to Information Bill, an Anti-Corruption Commission Bill, a Women's Amendment of Discriminatory Laws Bill, a Sexual Offences Bill, and a Bill on Mutual Legal Assistance in Criminal Matters. More legislation will be tabled in the course of this year, including comprehensive amendments to the Criminal Code and Criminal Procedure Code in order to sanitize our criminal justice system and bring it in line with modern criminal justice norms and practices. In particular, the amendments will introduce non-custodial sentences such as community service, suspended sentences, probation, elimination of the death penalty as a sentencing option, greater flexibility for bail, and plea bargaining, etc. Other new bills will include a prohibition of torture bill, which will criminalize acts of torture for the first time in the Gambia, an international crimes bill to cover mass atrocity crimes like genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity, a media services bill, and amendments to the Elections Act in consultation with the Independent Electoral Commission and all registered political parties in the country. Mr. President, distinguished guests, we are also on course to regain and restore the Gambia's global leadership in human rights. Last year, the government initiated a case at the International Court of Justice against the Republic of Myanmar under the 1948 Genocide Convention. Perhaps this came as a surprise to many in and outside the Gambia, but keen followers of our progress since the change in December 2016 would have noticed that the ICJ case was not an isolated event. It follows a pattern of increasing commitment of the government for adherence to international law and the fulfillment of our obligations as a state party to both regional and international treaties and conventions. Barely 1 month after the installation of the new administration under His Excellency President Barrow, the government in February 2017 rescinded the decision by the Jammeh administration to withdraw the Gambia from the International Criminal Court, paving the way for our continued membership to the ICC. Since 2017, the government has signed and or ratified a number of international treaties, including the UN Convention Against Torture, the Optional Protocol on the Abolition of the Death Penalty, the UN Convention Against Enforced and Involuntary Disappearance, and the African Charter on Democracy, Elections, and Good Governance. Moreover, since 2017, the Gambia successfully submitted its combined periodic reports for the first time since 1985 to the UN Human Rights Council on the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, our combined periodic report for the first time since 1994 to the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, our first report on the Maputo Protocol on the Rights of Women, and most recently in November 2019, we appeared before the UN Human Rights Council under the Universal Periodic Reports procedure. More significantly, the Gambia had since October 2018 made a declaration pursuant to Article 34.6 of the Protocol to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights on the establishment of an African court to allow individuals to have direct access to the court. Furthermore, the government has also honored all judgment awards made against the previous administration by the ECOWAS Court. Consequently, the Gambia's case at the ICJ should be viewed in the context of an increasing commitment to international law by the government. Moreover, by this single act of initiating a case at the ICJ under the 1948 Genocide Convention, we are saying to the rest of the world that the new Gambia will not tolerate oppression in or outside our borders. We have laid down a marker, therefore, about the standards of government behavior towards its people, and by implication, raise the expectations of our own people about our own conduct towards them, and we shall live up to those expectations, God willing. Mr. President, distinguished guests, following improvements in the conditions of service of the judiciary last year, I wish to extend my deepest gratitude to you, Your Excellency, and to your government for the improvements this year of the conditions of service of the professional staff of the Attorney General's chambers and the Ministry of Justice. It is indeed timely and further demonstrates the commitment of your government to strengthening the pillars of good governance. With these improved conditions, the ministry will increase its ability to retain and attract more experienced staff, ensure greater commitment, and produce faster results. Indeed, we are aware that to whom much is given, much more is expected. And so we have instituted new internal quality control mechanisms in order to increase efficiency, improve communications, and address the perennial challenges relating to court appearance by counsel, occasioned mostly by a shortage of adequate manpower. We have also introduced a performance appraisal system to monitor and evaluate staff performance with a view to making improvements. As I said at last year's opening of the legal year, I have never worked with a more committed and dedicated team than the men and women of the Ministry of Justice under the leadership of the Solicitor General, Mr. Cherno Marena. I could not be prouder calling them my staff. Over the last 3 years, they have been pushed to their limits to ensure that we deliver on our reform promises to the people of this country, and they have been equal to the challenge. I salute their determination despite the difficult conditions and the many constraints. Once again, I am grateful to you, Your Excellency, for recognizing their efforts and providing them with support by improving their conditions of service this year. Indeed, all of the achievements since 2017 have been registered under your leadership and guidance, and I am honored to have been given the opportunity to contribute to this historic period of transformation of our country as your Attorney General and Minister of Justice. I am indeed grateful for all the support that you have given me and which made an otherwise onerous job less burdensome. Our challenge going forward is to build on and consolidate the gains already made. I have no doubt that if we join hands and work together without regard to ethnicity, religion, political or other status, we will overcome our challenges as a nation with a determination equal only to the one that led to the change back in 2016. For the sake of future generations of Gambians, I pray that we live in unity, freedom, and peace each day. I thank you all for your attention.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for that well-stock-taking analysis of the Ministry of Justice and government as a large. Indeed, the government has spoken. Before I call on the next speaker, that is His Lordship, the Honorable Chief Justice, I would like, my Lord, with your permission, to specially recognize the presence of two of our Supreme Court judges from a friendly sister Republic of Nigeria. That's Justice Yaya, who is here with us today, currently on Supreme Court session, and Justice Nicola McBrown. My lords, you are welcome to this special occasion. Thank you so much.
Pila.
Thank you for that short interruption. I will now call on His Lordship, the Honorable Chief Justice of the Gambia, Mr. Justice Hassan B. Jallow, to give a statement. My Lord.
Your Excellency, Mr. Adama Barrow, President of the Republic of the Gambia, Your Excellency, Madam Vice President, Honorable Judges of the Superior Courts, Honorable Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Your Worships, Magistrates and Cadis, Honorable Ministers, Secretary General and Head of the Civil Service, Chief of Defense Staff of the Gambia Armed Forces, the Inspector General of Police, President and members of the Gambia Bar, Your Excellencies, members of the Diplomatic Corps, the Director General of the Gambia Law School, Honorable Presidents and members of the district tribunals, venerable religious leaders, members of staff of the judiciary and of the Attorney General's chambers, distinguished guests. It is very happily that time of the year again when, as members of the legal profession, as stakeholders in the administration of justice, and as members of the community, we all converge on the premises of the law courts to take stock of the administration of justice in the past year with its achievements and its challenges, and then to look forward to the future and dedicate ourselves to greater respect for the rule of law. I'm delighted to welcome you all here, Your Excellency and distinguished guests, once more to this ceremony marking the opening of the 2020 legal year. Your Excellency and distinguished guests may already have observed one difference this year, which is that the justices of the Supreme Court and I have replaced our robes, our ceremonial red robes, which have been the traditional attire in this jurisdiction and which we inherited from the United Kingdom for several decades. We have replaced them with robes which we believe are simpler, more convenient, and hopefully, of course, no less dignified than the red ones. This marks the beginning of a process of change of robes within the superior courts of the judiciary, which should culminate by the end of this year, and hopefully by the time we celebrate the opening of the next legal year in January 2021, in the provision of newly styled robes for all the superior courts, including the Gambia Court of Appeal and the High Court of the Gambia. The change in robes notwithstanding, the mandate and mission of the judiciary continue to be the same: to deliver justice independently, impartially, and efficiently. The management of cases continues to remain the core activity of the judiciary in this context. For as the now famous adage goes, justice delayed is justice denied, and it is also said that justice is sweetest when it is freshest, unquote. The speedy dispensation of justice, however, requires not only the efforts of the judicial officers and their support staff, but also of the various stakeholders involved in the judicial process, such as particularly in criminal cases, the police, the law officers in the Attorney General's chambers, the members of the private bar, the members of the National Agency for Legal Aid, and of course the community itself, witnesses, complainants, and all the rest of them. And also, of course, the collaboration of those officials who are the custodians and also the dispensers of national resources, which are required for the speedy administration of justice. I therefore continue to urge all those stakeholders in the justice process to do their utmost to ensure the smooth and reasonably speedy turning of the wheels of justice. Looking back over the 2019 judicial year, the statistics relating to disposal of cases are very encouraging. The year 2020 saw the registration of 8,178 cases in the entire court system. 5,446 of these cases were disposed of, representing a disposal rate of some 67%, leaving only 3,687 cases pending. During this period of 2019, the Supreme Court disposed of 50% of its cases, as did the Court of Appeal, with 74 out of its 148 cases out of the way, and the High Court also. The Magistrates' Court system disposed of 65% of 5,655 cases, and the Qadi Court system disposed of 65% as well of its 1,520 cases. This is a reasonably successful disposal rate, and I would like to seize the opportunity to commend all the judicial officers and their support staff for this great performance. There is very little activity which is as difficult and as challenging as dispensing justice reasonably speedily, fairly, impartially, and independently. And the judicial officers have continued to perform under trying and difficult conditions, but at the same time to achieve these excellent results. I would like to commend them very, very much for their performance. Within this performance, I would like to single out particularly Brikama Magistrates Court for particular commendation, because out of 1,718 cases registered in 2019, they disposed of 1,222. And this was a disposal rate of 71% of their cases, a very good performance. But better still was Kanifing Court. Kanifing Court had a higher disposal rate of almost 90%. Out of their 1,981 cases, Kanifing was able to dispose of 1,656. That's an extremely high rate, and I'd like to commend particularly Kanifing and Brikama for their excellent performance, to commend the principal magistrates who are in those jurisdictions, respectively His Worship Mr. Cham and Her Worship Aissatou Jani. We must not, however, rest on these statistics. We have to continue. The struggle has to continue to strive towards a higher rate of disposal, but of course without sacrificing the need for proper justice. We don't want justice delayed, but we don't want justice rushed either. We want justice to be properly dispensed within a reasonable time, and we ask for the patience of the public in this regard. Our concern with particularly the management of criminal cases, where delay often results in prolonged pretrial detention on remand, led us in 2019 to experiment with a new initiative. So the months of June and July in 2019 were exclusively devoted by all the courts to the review of all pending criminal cases, including the status of those who were on remand custody. All of them, those in remand custody, were brought out before the courts during that period, and some 962 persons accused of criminal offenses, including those on remand, were brought before the courts, and the cases of 382 of them were disposed of during those 2 months. Disposed of through convictions, through acquittals, and through discharges. Since then, the rest of the criminal cases continue to be dealt with by the courts on a priority basis. The evaluation of the exercise, of the June-July exercise by a stakeholders meeting has recommended, given the success of the experiment, that it should be undertaken periodically. And as a result, the judiciary will again be devoting some weeks in the month of February and in the month of March 2020 exclusively for a similar exercise. This, we hope, will help not only to expedite those urgent criminal matters, but we hope that it will also assist in the decongestion of the remand wing of the prisons. In order to ensure delivery also of some very long-standing judgments, numbering 105 in the subordinate courts, both criminal and civil, I appointed some what we call some 6 hurricane magistrates, because they are expected to work very, very fast and very expeditiously. 6 hurricane magistrates who were tasked with the conclusion of these cases. Many of these cases were inherited from other judicial officers who were no longer within the jurisdiction. And so their conclusion posed a problem. So we had to constitute this task force of hurricane magistrates to go through these files and to prepare the judgments. And here also I'm pleased to report that so far 71 out of those 105 cases have been concluded with judgments delivered by these 6 hurricane magistrates. And that we expect the remaining judgments to be delivered by the end of this month in January 2020. Even as we devote our time, our energy and resources to expediting trials, we must, as was stressed last year, continue to encourage alternative dispute resolution in respect of civil cases in order to ensure that only cases which need to come to court actually come to court and that they are heard by the courts. Accordingly, the judiciary is organizing a workshop in March 2020, a workshop with the assistance of consultants provided by the UNDP to review and to strengthen the court-connected ADR system and to provide training to its managers. Once the system is revived and running, we expect that this will also make an impact on the inflow of civil cases into the judicial process and help in speedier resolution of disputes. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, building the capacity of the judiciary to enable it to discharge its core functions and to meet the challenges of the future has, in the course of 2019, and will in the course of the current year, be the focus of our attention. The complement of judges in the High Court has recently been increased with the deployment of 2 High Court judges from the Republic of Ghana on technical assistance to the Gambia. I wish to seize this opportunity to welcome to the Gambia and to the judiciary once more the Honorable Justice Francis Achibonga and the Honorable Justice Alexander Osei Tutu. They have both been assigned to the High Court in Banjul and join a long list of Ghanaians who have served this country in the judicial field with great distinction, contributed to its jurisprudence, and strengthened the capacity of the judiciary as well. Your Excellency has also this month, acting on the recommendation of the Judicial Service Commission, appointed 3 Gambians to the High Court bench. And we look forward to Mrs. Zainab Nguimbub, Mr. Landing Sane, the Judicial Secretary, and Mr. Mamadou Diallo, the Principal Magistrate at Bundung. We look forward to them joining us shortly on the High Court bench. We are grateful to Your Excellency for this decision, and we would want to congratulate the judges concerned on their appointments. Your Excellency has indeed, in fact, been the initiator of this technical assistance arrangement with the Republic of Ghana through a message that His Excellency entrusted to the Chief Justice to deliver to the President of Ghana a few months ago, and who, I must say, responded very positively and very, very expeditiously. In recommending these appointments, let me assure the President of the Gambia Bar Association that the Judicial Service Commission, which is a constitutionally independent body tasked with recommending appointments of judges and appointing magistrates, is always guided by considerations of competence and of integrity. The Judicial Service Commission is guided by this consideration in making all appointments. There is, of course, no shortage of such members of the bar. The challenge is how to get them over to move from the bar to the bench. And it's a challenge which I think the current president will assist us in meeting. These new appointments mean that we will be able to post a judge permanently to the provinces, based either Basse or Mansa Kongo, but covering those 3 divisions. At the conclusion of renovation works also, a judge shall also be posted to Mile 7, Bakau, which, pursuant to Section 131, subsection 3 of the Constitution, I have also designated for sittings of the High Court, and those will take effect very, very soon. We also expect that the new appointments will translate into higher case disposal rates and improved case management at the High Court. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, I reported last year on government approval and financing of a new court complex at Bundung to house a High Court, magistrates' courts, and Cadiz courts. I am happy to report that with the provision of funding, the completion of the design of the structure, and the award recently of the contract to a builder, that all these have been concluded. The activities marking the opening of this legal year will therefore feature the laying of the foundation stone of the project on the 28th of January 2020. The project is expected to be completed by early 2021. Meanwhile, in the course of this year, it is also planned to open a new magistrates' court at Mile 7 Bakau properties of the judiciary in order to reduce the pressure on the Kanifing court. It is necessary, absolutely, as the president of the bar has indicated, that more courtroom space is created in the Greater Banjul area, not only to reduce the queuing of magistrates for courtrooms, but also to attend more efficiently to the large number of cases in the subordinate courts in this region. Between them, the subordinate courts at Bundung, Bursubi, Kanifing, and Brikama account for over 90% of all cases in the subordinate courts countrywide. 90% of all cases in the subordinate courts throughout the country are heard before these courts in the Greater Banjul area. So the demand for more courtroom space in this particular geographic area, if addressed, will make a significant positive impact, we believe, on the administration of justice. We recognize, Your Excellency, that the efficiency of the judiciary can be greatly enhanced by the use of technology in our operations. Currently, we operate a very manual system with outdated working methods. We intend to gradually introduce technology in the judicial system in various aspects of its operations, particularly with regard to the recording and transcription of court proceedings and the storage, the management, and retrieval of information. A modest start was launched in 2019 with the purchase of equipment valued at $2.5 billion, which is currently under installation at the High Court in Banjul, and is for the revival of the recording and transcription system in the High Court in Banjul. Furthermore, with the assistance of a UNDP recruited consultant, a needs assessment and plan for use of technology in the judiciary is being prepared to guide our intervention in the future in this particular area. We expect to receive the report shortly with its recommendations, and we look forward to the provision of the resources by government required for the implementation of the recommendations by government. Continuous training of staff of both judicial and non-judicial officers is essential in order to keep them abreast of new developments in their own fields and also to improve performance. The Judicial Training Institute, under the guidance of the Honorable Justice Awaba, President of the Gambia Court of Appeal, has in this respect continued to deliver a large number of programs for staff, including in 2019, awareness training in female genital mutilation for Cadiz, freedom of expression and freedom of information for some 17 judges, awareness training on cybercrime for 23 magistrates, induction training for magistrates, training on coroner's inquests and development of sentencing guidelines for magistrates. This latter is particularly important in order to be able to address the often wide disparity that we observe in sentencing by various different magistrates for the same crimes. I would like to record our appreciation to our sponsors and partners who helped us develop these programs, among them Wasu Kafo Gambia, the Gambia Press Union, the Judicial Training College of the United Kingdom, and the Commonwealth Magistrates and Judges Association. We look forward to their continuous support in the delivery of programs for this year, which will include induction training for newly appointed judicial officers, refresher courses for magistrates, strategic development leadership training for magistrates as well, training of the judiciary staff, the support staff, on workplace best practices for up to 100 members of staff, training of the staff of the court-connected ADR unit, the Sheriff Division, and for the procurement section of the judiciary as well. Your Excellency, we continue to consider measures to improve governance, improve performance, and also discipline at the judiciary. And in this regard, work is at an advanced stage for the preparation of Judicial Service Commission regulations, which, as in the case of the Public Service Commission regulations for the civil service, will regulate the rights and responsibilities of all staff members within the judiciary. It is proposed to convene a one-day judicial workshop on the 29th January, the day after the laying of the foundation stone at Bundung, to finalize the draft Judicial Service Commission regulations prepared by our consultants, Hawa S. Sabali and Co., who also have been recruited by the UNDP. We are indeed once more very grateful for their support. Under the 2020 budget for the judiciary as approved by the National Assembly, we are also looking forward to establishing a human resources monitoring and evaluation unit within the judiciary, which we hope will contribute to staff discipline, improve staff performance, and provide a basis for an objective evaluation of staff for promotion and advancement within the judiciary. At the opening of the legal year in 2019, I referred to the preparation of a strategic development plan for the judiciary. The work on that initiative, once again funded by the UNDP, is at an advanced stage following the holding of 2 judicial workshops at which the possible elements of such a plan were discussed and settled. And we look forward to validating a draft strategic plan in the next 5 months to be accordingly prepared and submitted again by another set of consultants, Ami Bensouda and Company, for the project. Such a strategic plan will provide guidance to the judiciary and to the government at large in the medium term, and also provide a framework for funding by the government and for similar intervention by potential donors. Your Excellency, I now turn to the Bar. The Gambia Bar, an institution that is an important partner, an important stakeholder in the administration of justice. I would like to congratulate first the new executive of the Gambia Bar Association, led by Mr. Saliu Tal, on their recent election as leaders of the association. We in the judiciary look forward to their support and to their collaboration in the advancement of our common mandate of settling disputes justly and settling them expeditiously. The General Legal Council, which is the statutory body responsible for regulating the bar, continues to be concerned about issues of conduct and issues of standards at the bar. In this regard, the Council is now exploring new measures in order to ensure expeditious consideration and determination of complaints against legal practitioners. At the same time, the Council, in recognition of the need to reward excellence at the bar and the exemplary conduct of some of its members, has adopted regulations which I shall be issuing shortly as chairman of the General Legal Council, for the creation of a rank of privilege titled Senior Legal Practitioner, which is the same as the Queen's Counsel, creating that rank within the legal profession for those of its members who satisfy the very stringent requirements of the regulations in their professional conduct and in their performance. The size of the bar continues to grow steadily. We still need more lawyers, despite the perceptions that there may be too many. We still need more lawyers in this country to serve the judiciary, to serve central government, to provide legal services to community as legal practitioners, and also to serve this country in many, many other spheres where the breadth and the depth and the versatility of legal training can be put to good use. On the 4th of February 2019, the General Legal Council called to the bar 58 graduates, of whom 42 were Gambians. A second batch of graduates numbering 61, of whom 39 were Gambians, were also called to the bar by the General Legal Council on 27 November 2019. And on the 1st of November 2019, 30 Gambians who had completed both the academic and the vocational stages of their training at the university and at the Gambia Law School and were considered to be fit and proper persons for practice at the bar by the General Legal Council. They were enrolled as legal practitioners who are now entitled to practice as lawyers. I wish to congratulate all of them and the Director General of the Gambia Law School, Mrs. Rugiba Tomasi, the lecturers of the law school, as well as members of the General Legal Council for these very positive achievements. We look forward to the schools continuing to provide high-quality graduates for the profession. The Council has also established a committee on legal education to be presided over by the Honorable Justice Amina Saho Sise to review all arrangements for legal education in the Gambia, including at the level of the University of the Gambia and also at the level of the Gambia Law School, with the intention, with a view to improving the quality of such education and consequently on professional standards at the bar. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, 2020 will be a momentous year for the Gambia. Momentous because we hope to adopt a new constitution, a constitution which will provide for the highest standards of respect for the rule of law, for the protection of human rights, for judicial independence and efficiency, and for overall good governance. A constitution which we hope will be a framework for stable and good government for our nation for the foreseeable future. The judiciary has made and has held discussions on its submissions with the Constitutional Review Commission. The core of the judiciary's concern is to ensure that the Constitution provides for security of tenure for judicial officers, security of tenure being so necessary for judicial independence, that the fundamental rights provisions of the draft Constitution are strengthened and reflect not only the traditional rights recognized in this jurisdiction, but also benefit from the vast amplitude of the large body of international human rights law, that the conditions of service of judicial officers as such promotes efficiency as well as integrity in that important organ of state, and that the unity of its legal system, unity of the legal system of the Gambia, which this country had enjoyed until in the late 1990s, is restored by the integration of the district tribunal court system into the mainstream of the judiciary, and that it is also restored by the reintegration of our Islamic courts fully into the mainstream judicial system. We look forward to the coming into force of a new constitution in 2020, which meets the foregoing criteria and which has the support of the generality of the population of this country. I would like to seize the opportunity to thank the chairman of the Constitutional Review Commission, Honorable Justice Cherno Jallow, and his team for the very serious work that they have undertaken on such an important issue. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, let me end by recording the appreciation of the judiciary to government in two respects: for its respect of the independence of the courts and of the rule of law, as well as for the provision of resources both for the judiciary's recurrent and development objectives. More resources, of course, are required to attend to the pressing needs I have mentioned before, including particularly the creation of more courtroom space in the Greater Banjul area and the provision of transport and equipment which are absolutely necessary for the proper functioning of the courts. We look forward to the progressive provision of such resources by the state and by donors. I would also like to thank our foreign partners, amongst them the governments of Ghana, of Nigeria, the United Kingdom, as well as the Judicial College of the United Kingdom, the UNDP, and the Commonwealth Magistrates and Judges Association for their support to the judiciary, and for their support to the project of consolidating and strengthening the rule of law in this country. It is necessary always to remind ourselves that in the absence of the rule of law, a community suffers rule by power. It suffers rule by arbitrariness and by injustices, and that these are all recipes for instability and for retrogression. Peace and progress are dependent largely on the existence of justice and on the existence of the rule of law. We must therefore, as a nation, and as a global community of states sharing ambitions for good government, invest in justice in the courts and in the rule of law. As practitioners and officials of the court legal system, we must remain committed to its success in order to enable us to reap the dividends of respect for democracy and the dividends of respect for the rule of law. I thank you all for your attention. I now have the great honor to invite His Excellency Adama Barrow, President of the Republic of the Gambia, to address the gathering and to declare the 2020 legal year open. Your Excellency.
Your Excellency, the Vice President, my Lord, the Chief Justice, Justices of the Superior Courts of the Gambia, Honorable Cabinet Members, members of the Gambia Bar Association, members and staff of the judiciary, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor and a singular privilege to preside over the official opening of the 2019-2020 legal year. From the outset, let me reaffirm the premium my government places on the establishment and strengthening of a credible justice system in the Gambia. Accordingly, the opening of the legal year is always a significant moment which we look forward to keenly. It is obvious that sound national justice system administration is vital for the stability and development of any nation. Therefore, it is important for all branches of government and the general public to give the legal and justice system the much needed support for it to function responsibly. In this regard, I will cite a few examples to indicate my government's commitment to maintaining an efficient, respectable, and robust legal system. From 2017 to date, important initiatives have been undertaken to attract and retain the finest indigenous legal minds for both the judiciary and the state law office. Incentive to our judicial officers and the state law officers have been significantly increased, and there has not been any executive interference in the judiciary. The separation of the three organs of state and the independence of the judiciary are principles which my government will never compromise. We know that government commitment to good governance and the protection of human rights goes a long way in supporting the judiciary and the legal profession. In truth, the values of good governance save valuable judicial time as they enable the courts to focus on more pressing matters of development. Ladies and gentlemen, when Gambians voted for change in 2016, they chose democratic rule over dictatorship, the rule of law over misuse of power, and respect for human rights over disregard of freedoms and civil liberties. We voted for a Gambia free from unlawful arrests and the brutality of law enforcement agents, suppression of the press, and detention without trial, among other forms of violations. As a government, we are aware of these choices, and our responsibility is to promote and ensure the protection of these choices. The evidence is that we are living up to expectation. In my address to this August gathering in 2019, I outlined some of the major legislative and institutional reforms embarked upon by my government. A year on, we have progress registered thus far. The Constitutional Review Commission has shared the first draft of the proposed new constitution after inclusive consultation with the citizenry, both within and outside the country. We now look forward to a constitution that reflects the real values and aspirations of all Gambians. The Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission held public hearings which avail witnesses testify before the Commission. This represents a significant number of both victims and perpetrators. In line with the victim-centered approach of the TRRC, from the sale of the former president's assets, the sum of $50 million has been allocated to the TRRC Victims Trust Fund to redress its numerous victims of human rights violations. The first ever National Human Rights Commission is now fully functional. It is expected that it will continue to be the bedrock for the protection of human rights in this country. The Janneh Commission of Inquiries submitted its final report on the financial activities of former President Jammeh. Most of the recommendations in the report were accepted by my government, and recovery efforts are being executed in the interest of the nation. Key legislative initiatives were launched in the past year, geared towards the creation of an open, democratic, and rule-based society. Among them is the anti-corruption bill, which will pave the way for the establishment of the first ever anti-corruption commission in the Gambia. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2019, the Gambia made the most significant mark in the world of international human rights promotion since the adoption of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights in 1986. Having recognized our recent gains in defending human rights, in 2018, the OIC nominated the Gambia as chair of its Interministerial Committee for Accountability for the Rohingyas in Myanmar. Subsequently, with the support of the OIC, the Gambia government instituted legal proceedings at the International Court of Justice against the Republic of the Union of Myanmar to stop all acts of genocide against the Rohingyas. We are conscious of the burden of state-sponsored terror against innocent and unarmed civilians. We must use our moral voice to condemn oppression wherever it happens, so that others will not suffer illegally. We are currently pursuing this matter. Ladies and gentlemen, in spite of the steady progress we have made as a nation in the past 3 years, more work needs to be done in the legal sector. I have observed, for example, the crime rate and the desire for violence among a section of youth, especially crimes of sexual violence against women and girls. In addition, the backlog and slow handling of court cases. We need to step up on these areas to maintain public confidence in the judiciary. Meanwhile, efforts are being made to recruit the required number of judges for the High Court of the Gambia. For this reason, I recently confirmed the appointment of 2 more judges from the sister republic of Ghana, and I hope more Gambians will take up the challenge of serving on the bench to fill the gap. Having said this, I pay tribute to all those in the criminal justice chain who have contributed in one way or another to the justice delivery system in the country. Keep up the good work. In conclusion, I must reiterate once again my government's commitment to providing a sustained, conducive environment for an efficient, transparent, and fair legal system in the Gambia. Confidence that you will play your part very well. I now declare the legal year officially open. I wish you all a very happy, prosperous, and peaceful legal year. I thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Gambia, for that statement. On behalf of we have now come to the end of the session, but before we disperse, I would like to make some few announcements. Immediately after the next is the President, His Excellency, will have photo with the judges of the Superior Courts. Then it will be followed by another photograph with the magistrates, then the caddies. From there, the President will shake hands with the judiciary staff and the Attorney General's chamber staff, while the honorable ministers and the judges will use this pathway to the Chief Justice, His Lordship's chambers. Then the President will meet them there. Due to the space constraint, we are allowing only the ministers, the judges, and the senior members of the bar. There is no space, that's why, not disregard to anybody. On behalf of my Lord, the Honorable Chief Justice, the judges of the Superior Courts, the fraternal staff of the judiciary, and everybody, we would like to once more thank His Excellency the President, the Cabinet Ministers, the Bar Association, the chiefs, who of course are wearing two caps, but I think today they are wearing that of judicial cap. That's why they are here. We really appreciate your coming. I can see some chiefs coming all the way from Basse. This shows how important you attach to this occasion. On behalf of the Chief Justice and everybody, we thank you, and we really appreciate and count on your support in future. To the permanent secretaries and other dignitaries, we really appreciate your presence, and of course the land turnout of the Gambia law students. We appreciate your coming. This shows that you are signing or you are featuring something. This is going to be your house, so it's better you are part of us. So without saying much, I will just now, everybody should remain seated while the President and the Superior Court judges take photos, magistrates and caddies. Please.
Where do we proceed to?
We're afraid of the height.
Maimuna, Secretary, Asmana Ba, Mas, one of the most civil registrar.
Sahna, founder and owner of Her Apparel, a mother's clothing brand. Tough Startup has been one of the best things that ever happened to my life, if not the best.
My name is Modul Ahmed Fati, founder, farm manager, ML Poultry. Before Tough Startup 2018, this used to be my poultry house with about 200 chickens. And today, ML Poultry has just built a new farm with a production capacity of up to 4,000 chickens.
I'm Ivo Lawrence Mendy. I'm the CEO and the founder of Cameco. The Tough Startup, we're able to register the company in Ghana as a limited, let's Ride Africa Ghana Limited.
I urge every single young entrepreneur out there to give it a try. It's a life-changing experience.